Welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. When you're ready to transform your sales for today's transforming market, we've got you covered with your host, the queen of cold calling and founder of Salesology, award-winning author, speaker, sales trainer, and coach, Wendy Weiss.
Hi, welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. And I'm your host, Wendy Weiss. I am the founder of Salesology and the Salesology Prospecting Method, and I'm also known as the Queen of Cold Calling. Today, we have a very, very special guest, my friend and my colleague, Laura Posey. She is the chief instigator of Simple Success Plans. She's also an internationally recognized speaker, author, and consultant. Laura is known as the Simple Planning Specialist because she has a unique ability to simply and easily laser focus her clients to get dramatic results. Her simple strategic plan is used by over 3,000 companies, from startups to Fortune 100 companies. She is the author of How to Plan Your Entire Year on One Sheet of Paper. And she's also the co-author with Jack Canfield of Mastering the Art of Success. Laura's a graduate of SUNY at Buffalo. She holds an MBA from the Virginia Commonwealth University. She's fluent in German. She's working on her Spanish. And when she's not on stage or with a client, you can find her traveling the world, playing golf, practicing the fiddle, or snuggling with her rescue cats, Simone, Cicely, Harry, and Hazel. And she does that at home in Richmond, Virginia. And we were just talking cats, and I'll throw in my shout out to my two rescues, Beekman and Stuyvesant. So welcome, Laura Posey. I'm so happy you're here.
It's great to be here, Wendy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let us begin as we often do at the beginning.
Let's do it.
What is your story? What's the backstory? How did you become the chief instigator of Simple Success Plans?
Well, I am a corporate dropout. I tried the corporate route and decided that we were not a good match. Apparently, I ask too many questions, and I don't like other people's rules and structure. So I jumped off the corporate bandwagon 22 years ago, and I started out with a sales training business because selling was what I knew how to do. I had been a regional sales manager and a salesperson myself. And about 6 or 7 years into my journey, I was working with a business partner, and he was driving me absolutely mad. And I was really just in a miserable, horrible place. So I ran away to Sedona, Arizona, and decided I needed to get clear on what it was that I wanted to do. And I created my very first one-page plan while I was in Sedona, and just said, you know what, I'm going to stick to this plan no matter what it takes. Like, I'm going to do everything that's on this sheet of paper. And I came back and changed absolutely everything, bought out the business partner, got rid of all the overhead that we had. We had employees, we had building, we had all kinds of stuff, got rid of everything, moved my house. I mean, like, just changed everything in that first year, and realized, you know, this planning thing, there's something to it. And started using it with my sales training clients by asking, them the question, like, what are you really trying to accomplish here? And it's been onward and upward ever since.
Okay, so you said something that struck me, because it's certainly an experience that I've had, which is, you said you made your plan and then you vowed to stick to it, and then you went back home and changed everything.
Yeah.
So I guess my first question is, what's the definition of a success plan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think a success plan for me, it starts with, what kind of lifestyle do you want? And what are the things that you want in your life? What do you want your health to look like? What do you want your money to look like? What do you want your interactions with your family and your friends and your community to look like? and then looking at it and saying, okay, if I have to build a business that's going to deliver all these things to me and support all these things in my lifestyle, what would that look like? How big does it need to be? How much money do I need to be earning in it? And what are the things that I have to commit to doing on a regular basis, and the things that I need to change if all of those things are going to happen? And so for me, that's what a success plan is. We call it a success roadmap.
So if you have your success roadmap and then you change everything, why do you need the success roadmap?
Well, so I didn't have a success roadmap, and I had gotten myself into a place where I hated pretty much everything in my life because I hadn't been intentional about creating it. I hadn't defined all of the things that I want. And when I got really clear about what was important to me and what it was going to take to have those things, then I had something that I could commit to. Before that, I was just flying by the seat of my pants and just kind of chasing every opportunity that came my way.
So your initial one-page plan was a work in progress because that was not the plan that you then followed.
No, that was the plan that I followed. So for the first 6 or 7 years, I had no plan. I put that page in place and stuck to that, and basically changed everything that I had been doing for the last 6 or 7 years because I got clear about the kind of work I wanted to do, the kind of people I wanted to work with. The fact that I wanted to run a very streamlined business without employees, without having a building, without having all of that stuff. So, yeah.
I just had an epiphany. You weren't telling me you changed the plan. You were telling me you executed the plan and you changed everything in your life.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
My mistake. Now I'm clear.
All good.
Okay.
No, once I make a plan, I stick to the plan.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, a lot of people don't. So how do you get people to stick to a plan?
It's really about understanding why people fall off the plan, if you will. We're so hardwired to be consistent, and we've all got habits that are ingrained in us. And some of these habits are years or decades old that we've been practicing them. And when you put a plan in place and you're making changes in your life, there's a natural resistance, right? You're having to put conscious energy into that change. And what happens is your body goes, this is tiring. You're making me think all the time. Screw it. I'm just going to go back to the way I was doing things because that was easy. I could do those things on autopilot. And so we just have to be aware that when you're feeling that resistance, when you're feeling that struggle, when you're feeling that, this is too hard, that's the time to really double down, because what's happening is you're just substituting those old habits with new habits, and it just takes more energy to build the new habit. And I think once people successfully execute that first plan, then they realize I can do this. I am the kind of person who can write things down and accomplish them. So I am that person now, and it makes the next year's plan and the next year's plan and the next year's plan that much easier.
So what are the elements then of a good plan?
The elements of a good plan to me are, as I said, starting with that personal piece, understanding what you want your lifestyle to look like. And then saying, okay, where do I want my business to be in 3 years? So having kind of a longer time frame, something that's really big and exciting. And then backing that down into this year and saying, okay, how much revenue do I want in my company? How much am I going to pay myself? Because those are two different numbers, right? You've got your revenue for your company, but then you've got your expenses. So how much are you going to pay yourself? How much time off are you going to take? Because being an entrepreneur, part of the fun is the freedom that you can take time off and enjoy life. I also think it's important to have your core values written down, right? What do you stand for? How do you expect people to treat you? And how are you going to treat other people? I like to have a little fun and put some personal bucket list items on my plan so that I can look at them and go, yeah, I'm going to get these things done this year. Like this is part of why I'm working so hard is I want to get these things done. Then we put down the things that we need to do every single week to be successful, like, paying attention to our money. We call that a money date, making sure that we're having connections with people who inspire and recharge us and teach us things, as well as planning, making sure that you've got your plan for the week so you know what you're going to do. Having a list of all the changes that you're going to make in that year. And then we have a tracking section as well, where you keep track of your revenue and your income to make sure that you're making the progress that you expect to make.
That sounds
and it all fits on one sheet of paper.
I was about to say that sounds like more than one sheet of paper.
I know your folks can't see it, but you can. There it is.
I can. It's one sheet of paper. But it is indeed one sheet of paper. So what are some of the mistakes that people make when they're creating a plan?
Yeah, I think so often we're so stuck in our mindset of where we've been and who we've been that it can be really scary to look at a big change in 1 year and say, I'm going to double my income this year. And I see people, they're like, well, I'm afraid to write that down because it doesn't feel realistic. And, what I would say to folks is just because you haven't done it doesn't mean you can't do it. At one point you couldn't walk, right? And not only did you figure out how to walk, but folks like you figured out how to become ballet dancers. Like that's so far beyond walking, right? And so if you can learn to do those things, you can learn to do anything. And so, don't look at things through the lens of realistic, because that's just looking at, well, what have I done in the past? Instead, put down what you really care about. What do you really, really want? Because unless it's something you desperately want, it's too easy to fall back in the old habits and get what you've always got. I think the other thing is, I think folks do a poor job of understanding the difference between goals and projects. In a business, goals generally are money related, right? So I hear people say all the time, like, oh, my goal this year is to write a book. And I would say, well, writing a book is a nice project. It's a nice thing to get done and say, look, I have a book, but it doesn't have any money attached to it. And the purpose of your business is to generate money. And so a goal would be selling 5,000 books. And if you haven't written the book, then writing the book would be a project on the way to achieving that goal. But I see folks have lots of goals that don't have money attached to them. So they do a lot of stuff, but it's not making them any money. And so I see that as one of the huge mistakes folks make over and over again.
So what if you have a goal that I'm going to write a book, I'm going to sell 5,000 copies of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's how I'm going to generate revenue. But at what point, doesn't reality have to come into play at some point? What if you don't have the wherewithal to sell 5,000 books?
Well, I think there's an old saying, there's a million ways to make $1 million, right? There's a million ways to sell 5,000 books, right? Maybe there's 5,000 ways to sell 5,000 books. And I think sometimes people get locked into, well, this is the way it's done, right? So I give you an example. I have a friend who has written several books, and they're amazing books. And she's always published them what I call like the traditional way, where you get an agent and then you get a publisher, And then you go through this long process and you finally get the book published, and then you buy like 5,000 copies, and then you have to go, they sit in your garage until you sell them. Right. Well, that's one way to do it. Right. And you can sell books, one-on-one. Right. I have another friend who just published a new book and sold 10,000 copies right away. Same process of going to a traditional publisher, but she sold her books in big chunks. She went to her clients and said, hey, I wrote this new book. It'd be really good for everybody in your organization. Why don't you buy 1,000 copies? Two totally different ways. Other folks say, well, I'm going to go self-publish. I'm going to put it on Amazon, and I'm going to ask everybody I know to send out an email to everybody that they know and ask them to buy one copy. And, if you know 10 people and they know 10 people and they know 10 people, right? You can do the math. Do that enough and you'll sell your 5,000 copies. So I guess I don't believe in wherewithal. I think there's always a way if it's something that you really want to do. I say that with a caveat. There are certain physical limitations that folks have. Like, I grew up wanting to be a linebacker, a middle linebacker for the Washington Redskins. I realized at about age 12, when I was 5'2", that was probably outside of the realm of possibility for me. Right. So there are some physical limitations, but I think in the realm of sales, I mean, you see people sell all kinds of stuff. I think it's absolutely possible.
So then your plan has to include how you're going to sell those 5,000
exactly.
copies.
Yeah. So one of your projects is figuring out, like, how am I going to sell these books? And sometimes, generally in business, if you want to get an outcome, you can either use your time or your money or both. So you can go work with an agency to help you write, help you publish, and help you sell your books. It's going to cost you money to do it that way, right? Or you can spend time making a lot of connections, right? And they're just different projects within your plan.
So is this plan, is it different if you're, say, a solopreneur versus, I don't know, a CEO, of an enterprise level company?
If you're doing it as an individual, whether you're doing it as a CEO or as a solopreneur, the plan is the plan. It's the same. When you're using it, let's say you're the sales manager for a division of a Fortune 500 company. Those are some of the folks that I've worked with in the past. We adapt the plan a little bit. We take out some of the personal things, but the rest of it's, we take out like the bucket list stuff, and we change up the tracking piece. But it's really, it comes down to the essence of planning, which is the same no matter what. It's deciding what you're going to focus on. What is the end point that you want to get to? And what are the things that have to change in your current business if you're going to get there? I once did a one-page plan with, oh my God, we had 14 people in the room, 14 C-level executives, $40 billion company. And we put their entire 3-year plan together on a sheet of paper in one day. It was an exhausting day, but we did it. Because anytime you get sales and HR and legal and accounting in the same room, trying to agree on where the company could go, it's a bit of a challenge. But not only did we get there, but they accomplished that goal. And the then CEO of the North American division is now the global CEO. So, and that was in his personal plan. So the core concepts of planning work no matter whether you're just one little person or, a $40 billion company.
So we're going to take a pause for a moment for a word from our sponsor. But when we come back, I want to ask Laura about just where do you start? What are the steps? Also love to hear some before and after planning on one sheet of paper. But we're going to pause for a word from our sponsor, which is PlansSalesology, 81 tools to grow your sales and your business faster, more easily, and more profitably. Are you stuck because you can't find the right sales and marketing resources to help you grow your business? Or maybe you're sick of spending hours hunched over your computer, researching and looking for what you need instead of selling and generating revenue. Or maybe you're just frustrated and confused because you can't find what you need at an affordable price. Well, never fear, because PlansSalesology has you covered. We've done the research, we've vetted all the tools, so you can save hours of work and you no longer have to spend them hunting for what you need. You can download 81 tools to grow your sales and your business faster, more easily, more profitably. It's free. Just click on the link in the show notes and you'll be glad you did. And we are back with my friend and colleague, Laura Posey. She is the chief instigator of Simple Success Plans. And I want to ask Laura, can you walk us through, if I want to make a plan on one sheet of paper, where am I going to start?
You're going to start with what you want in your life. You're going to start with the life that you really want to live, because your business exists to give you the time and the money that you want for the lifestyle that you want to live. You do that through serving your customers and providing tremendous value to them. But as a small business owner, your purpose of your business is to fund that beautiful lifestyle that you want. I mean, otherwise you just go get a job someplace. So always start with the personal, because that becomes your why, right? Simon Sinek very famously said, start with your why. And your why is, what do I want in this life?
Okay.
So that is absolutely where you should start.
Okay. And you have a place on your one sheet where we would write this down.
Yep.
Okay. Then what's the next step?
Then it's really looking at the business and saying, well, how big does my business need to be? What does it need to look like if I'm going to have that lifestyle? So that's where you're really getting creative and saying, well, what are all the different possibilities for my business? What are all the different ways that it could look? Do I want to be local? Do I want to be global? Do I want to be doing a lot of work on Zoom? Do I want to have live events? What do I want my sales process to look like? How often do I want to work every day, every week, or do I want to take Fridays off? Really getting crystal clear about what does this business have to look like to deliver that lifestyle to you. And I think that's a piece that a lot of folks forget, and they don't spend the time exploring the possibilities of different business models to figure out what could this look like. Because once you decide, what does the business have to look like? How much revenue does it have to generate? How much of that's going to be my income? How much time am I going to work in it? And what types of work am I going to do in this business? Once you've decided that, then it's really simply a matter of looking at, okay, what does my business look like now? What does that future state look like? What are the changes that I have to make? And that is, in essence, the rest of the plan, right? It's figuring out, what are those changes and how am I going to make them? So if you look at your business and say, well, I want to make $500,000, And one of the ways I want to do that is I want to be selling a lot of online courses. Well, if you don't have any online courses, you got to build an online course, right? And if you don't have a huge email list, you got to build an email list. And so it's looking at those things and breaking each one of those down and going, okay, well, if I'm going to do an online course, how do I create a course that people are really going to want? And if I'm going to build my email list, what are all the ways I can do that? And which ones are right for me, right? You can build a big email list doing Facebook ads, but if you hate Facebook and you don't know anything about Facebook ads, probably not a good way to go, right? And so it's really taking each of these pieces and just chunking it down and going, what has to be true for this to happen? And then being committed to doing those things to make it true.
So can you give us some examples of before and after businesses that did not have a plan or did not have it on one sheet of paper with you, and now they do, and what's happened?
Sure. So I have a client who for 20 years has been a voice coach, typically teaching singing, and has, had a good career singing and teaching singing, but she really wanted to go into coaching and move more into the business world. So she created her plan, and she wanted in her first year to finally crack the magic 6-figure mark. She'd never earned 6 figures in 1 year. And so she started looking at all the ways that she could do that. And she thought, and this was right in the middle of 2020. She said, suddenly everybody's having to be on Zoom and they're having to learn how to make an impact without being in person. And I'm really good at that. Been teaching it for years. So I'm going to create a program to do that. And she had never worked in corporate. So she figured out, well, how do you make sales into a corporate environment? And within the first 5 months of putting her plan in place, she had hit her 6-figure mark.
Wow. So where is she now?
Oh, gosh. She's in the mid 6 figures now. She is still doing the voice impact work, but she's pivoted because one of the things that you may have noticed with the pandemic is that now everybody's on Zoom and everybody's comfortable with it. So as she looked at the market, she realized, wow, there's a whole lot more competition and there's less demand for this product. So she has pivoted her focus specifically into helping women make more of an impact in their presentations and making sure that they don't get talked over or mansplained or she said one of the things that happens a lot is they're in a meeting and a woman will say, well, I have an idea, and they'll give their idea, and some guy will go, well, I have an idea, and give the same idea, and he'll get all the credit. So she's working in that market now and absolutely crushing it and loving it.
Wow. I'm giving her 5 stars right now for what she's doing.
Yeah.
That's important work.
It is. It is. She's amazing.
Yeah. And so I know you have a gift for all of our listeners.
I do. Yep.
So we share some details of your gift. And by the way, everyone, we're going to post the link for Laura's gift in the show notes. So as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, go right to the show notes, click on the link. Laura, tell us about your gift.
Yeah. So, planning your year is a lot. So I want to give people a way to get started easily with planning their day in using what we call a daily success checklist. And this is a way to make sure that you're getting the right things done today so that you're making progress every single day in your business. And so I want to give you a copy of the daily success checklist so that you can print it off, you can download it, you can fill it in online, however you want to do it. We've got a tutorial video that goes with it. We've got some samples so you can see what it looks like when it's done the right way. We want to make sure that you absolutely have your daily success dialed in.
Well, I know what I'm going to be doing as soon as we finish this interview, which is clicking on the link in the show notes so I can download the daily success checklist. And where can people reach you, Laura? They can get your checklist. Where else can they reach you?
My website, simplesuccessplans.com, is always a great place. Just go to the contact us. There's blog posts, all sorts of fun stuff to read there. We've got a really cool quiz. You can also find me on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'll respond eventually. It's just not my jam. I know it's a thing. I'm a Facebook gal. Maybe I'm old. But yeah, you can hit me up on Facebook. I love connecting with folks there. And those are the two best places to hunt me down.
Okay. And we will put Laura's website, simplesuccessplans.com. We will also put her Facebook link in the show notes. And we'll put, just for the hell of it, her LinkedIn profile. We'll put that link in the show notes. So you can go to the show notes, click and download the Daily Success Checklist, and then you can connect with Laura however you want to connect with Laura. And so we've been talking to Laura Posey, who is the chief instigator at Simple Success Plans. And you've been listening to the Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders podcast. And if you found value in today's podcast, then think of one business owner or one sales professional, one person that you know that you think might also find value in listening to this podcast, and share the link with them. And until we meet again, do visualize yourself surrounded by cash, really large bills.
You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. Be sure to follow so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every week for more exciting insights and wisdom on transforming sales. And until next time, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, very large bills.